So I thought I'd tell you guys a bit about my story, how it is that I became a game developer, and specifically how I got my first game dev job. So this story starts almost a decade ago. I was a university student enrolled in a media generalist course where I learned a lot about 3D animation, programming, illustration, audio. It was actually a perfect course for an indie developer because, as you guys probably know, indie development is all about wearing different hats and having to have to adopt different responsibilities, whether it be doing your title screen art, your player animations, or the audio, 3D, and all of the above, and programming, obviously. So anyway, this is the Flash era, and I was making a lot of Flash games, and I was doing it for fun, just for friends and family. And at this point, I had no idea that I could have a job making these kind of games. And I was on the emailing list for the university, and I saw a forward go around from a local advertising agency looking for someone to make games in Flash. And I was really surprised, and I had no idea that I could actually take on a job doing this. So I reached out to them, and they were a really cool bunch of guys. They were a small boutique advertising agency. What that means is it's a small team that takes on commercial projects for like large brands, Coca-Cola, Nike, these kind of big brands, and they make interactive games and stuff for them. Advertising games essentially, but games no less. So I went in there and I was very enthusiastic, obviously, to make games, and they brought me on. So I officially started my first job as a game developer commercially. And it was really, really interesting because what it meant was that I got to learn how to perfect my craft. See, I was programming and making these games, but it wasn't until I stepped into a commercial setting that I realized that the way I was doing it was very rudimentary. And the main benefit of being there was the people that I was exposed to. You see, on my left sat a very brilliant art director. He was a young guy too. He was probably, funnily enough, it's possible he was even younger than me at the time. He just had his attention to detail and artistic cohesion was something like I'd never seen before. And I got to learn a lot from him. And I asked him a lot of questions. And on my right sat a senior programmer. And this was like the perfect combination. On my left, an art director. On my right, a programmer. They were literally like less than a meter away from me. So I got to sit 3-4 days a week with these guys for 8 hours a day, just picking their brain about all the different things related to the industry. And because I was a junior, there was no question that was considered too stupid, which was really good, and they were really supportive. And if I hadn't met these guys or had these guys in my life, I really don't know how my story would have ended up. And I would have still continued doing what I was doing and met different people, and life finds a way if you have an interest. But I really do feel that they were a core part of my journey, and just having them as a stepping stone of knowledge. And that's the main thing. So there's often the topic of whether people should get game dev jobs is hotly contested, and a lot of indies refuse to get jobs. I have a different school of thought on this. I feel that if you want to be serious about game development, whether it be indie development or commercial development, I would say let yourself be exposed to a commercial setting for at least a year or two, and then go on to do your indie projects, because the experience you gain in these situations is like nothing you can gain on your own. And you have plenty of time to gain indie experience on your own. You'll have plenty of nights of solitude, but being forced into a team environment, being put under pressure with looming deadlines, it's really quite the learning experience, and it really pushes you to step up to the plate and overcome these challenges. And you do, because you want to excel. So that's what happened to me. And in the space of like 6 months, I felt I got years of experience, and my skills just exponentially got better during this period. And that wouldn't have happened had I had just gone about my indie journey without that kind of situation. So back to this idea that people say you shouldn't get, well, some people don't like the idea of getting a game development job in the industry. Well, they're kind of talking about AAA game companies. And I've heard all types of crazy stories about what goes on at those companies and how they exploit people. And that's not exactly the same everywhere. And there's plenty of game development opportunities outside of the AAA sphere. You can definitely find small companies that let you get involved. And the main difference is, at these smaller companies, you get to really see a project through from start to end. And that's very, very satisfying. Where in a AAA setting, you're essentially just a cog in a wheel. I mean, there's exceptions to this, of course, I'm sure. But from the anecdotal accounts I've heard, you're just one kind of moving part in a larger machine. And once that product gets shipped, it's really hard to even understand what you did to contribute to the, but it's not necessarily visible on the surface. Where at these smaller companies, you can really see a project through from start to end. Quite often I was even dabbling with art. I was doing programming primarily, but I got to design. I got to kind of create the flow for the games and, wear different hats. And it was very much what I do now as indie developer. So I got directly exposed to that. So just know there are situations out there where you can have a very fulfilling commercial experience. I mean, that's not to say I didn't have my own fair share of crazy stories. If I'm not mistaken, I kind of slept overnight more than once on the couch trying to get some projects done. But, that's how it is sometimes. So after about 6 months of being there, an interesting thing happened. Or maybe it was maybe close to a year or so. I think I was there for about 2 years. But after a period of time, the senior developer who worked there, he left. And so the managers were deliberating as to whether they should hire a replacement for him. So they came to me and they asked me, do you think you can essentially do his job? Can you hold down that part of the work? And that was the only programmer at the time in the company. And I was like, whoa, okay. So this is my first job. I've essentially only just kind of started, but at the same time, I had built a lot of confidence during the period of time I had been there. And I said to them, you know what, I'll give it a crack. And I had to really step it up. I had to step up to the plate, and it was no BS, because there was deadlines, clients waiting, and I had to really kind of mature very quickly to meet that demand. And I'm glad I did, and it was really interesting. So within 6 months to a year into my career, I had become a lead developer at a company. That was quite a novelty thing. All things considered, with my limited experience, I think I did a pretty reasonable job, and I felt I solved a lot of problems for them. So when all was said and done, by the time I was finished with these guys, I had a very extensive portfolio of little mini games and stuff I had built with big brand appeal, and it allowed me then to get a better job at a higher level, at a higher pay grade, pay level, and but I was officially now a fully fledged game developer. So I took what I learned there. So it was really valuable to have gone through that. If you do come across people in your life that are prepared to open their hearts and mind to your questions, take advantage of that. And like me, you will gain a lot in a short amount of time, because people pay coaches and mentors and go through these programs to get a similar experience. It's quite often that these people, they transition through your life. They're not a permanent fixture. And if you don't strike while the iron is hot, let's say, then they may be gone and you're going to miss out. So in the same way, I try to now make myself available for people who are coming up and trying to learn the craft of game dev. And that's why I've got this Discord where I kind of try to help coach people one-on-one as best as I can in my free time. So yeah, if you need any help, or if you have any questions, come see me. on Discord, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, no matter how foolish they are, because I know what it was like, and I sympathize with people who are going through the early struggles of learning programming and the challenges. So that's it, guys. I hope you liked this video. It's a little bit different, but I thought it might be quite useful, as I've learnt a lot of things over the past decade that I feel I can pass on to you guys that is quite valuable to know about. So let me know what you think. Drop me a comment down below, give the video a like if you found it useful, and I'll be sure to continue on with some more game dev tutorials very soon. Alright guys, all the best. See you later.